Bitcoin did 3x its previous all-time high in the last cycle. Does it do that somewhat less because, as you get more maturity, maybe it does less? ETH, well, maybe ETH does 3 times its all-time high like Bitcoin did in the last cycle. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, is versus all-time highs. I think the space probably ends up, in the end, closer to a $10 trillion asset class than it is $1 trillion today. So is there a 10x from the space? Possible. Is it a 5x instead? Maybe. But, I don't really think in terms of where it gets to in price. It gets to where it gets to. You just need to be in it for the ride. If you'd have launched a Bitcoin ETF in October of last year, you would have had 0 buyers.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of price. So the moment the narrative starts picking up and the liquidity comes back and people have got some money to invest again, look, nobody's got any money right now. Everybody's skint. Everyone's had a tough time. It's got no recycled gains because everything's below all-time highs. But once that starts happening, money will flow in. Usually by this stage in the crypto markets, we should start hitting crypto summer by summer of next year, from sometime after about April. And I think that means that now the channel is open and people can take money in. So as you rightly say, there's a lag because the markets aren't, the market narrative isn't ready to bring in billions and billions of dollars. But if crypto does its crypto thing, and by kind of Q2, Q3 of 2024, the markets are starting to rip, interest rates are coming down, liquidity's in the system, people are making money. Oh yeah, we'll see, tens of billions of dollars coming into this. DeFi space is very difficult. I personally don't use it because I'm comfortable with the risk. If I'm buying a cryptocurrency and I put it in my Ledger wallet, I know the risk that I've got there. I've got the risk of something happening with my Ledger or my seed phrase, and I've got the price risk. But once I start earning yield, particularly if I'm not doing, native staking and I'm giving it to a third party to stake or whatever, well, now I've got another risk that they blow up or my money gets drained. So then you're adding incremental risk. Are you getting paid enough for it? Is that 5% enough that you could have your wallet drained? I don't think so. Not for me. For others, it is, but not for me. I think most people have teams, Web3 teams, across all of finance to big brands, and they're ready to activate. They're just waiting for more liquidity to come back and a bit more certainty. So I think the narratives will be broad. Sure, there'll be some breakout narratives. The other one is gaming. That's the other one a lot of people are waiting for, is how gaming fits in. So there's a lot of narratives coming, and I think they'll all come together at the same time, which will make it, I think a lot of people will have the light bulb moment this time around. Everybody from Goldman Sachs to JP Morgan to BlackRock to Apollo to, you name it, they're all involved. Obviously, Fidelity have been pioneers, Franklin Templeton have been pioneers. So they're all ready. So NFTs right now we know is digital art, which was the proven use case of that you can create digital scarcity on a blockchain. So therefore, in an increasingly digital world, not everything goes to zero in value because we can make anything digitally in infinite numbers, including with AI knowledge. So what we're going to do is create some scarcity. So that was what the art movement was. PFP showed about community and Web3. But NFTs are basically contracts or deeds in an electronic world. The more the US relies on its military, the more money it has to print. And it just doesn't have the money to do this. So the only way of doing it is printing money. So, stimulus can come in a number of ways. It could be protecting the bond market, it could be protecting the economy and jobs. Or it could be protecting the banking system. We don't know, but we know that the economy basically doesn't function without some expansion of the balance sheet because the US economy and most of the Western world is too far in debt to cover the interest payments via GDP growth alone. There are 2 main outcomes I see here. One is that they just lose control of the whole system. So So let's go step back and say, okay, how does this play out? You either have to cap interest rates, which is called yield curve control, but then you're printing currency to do it. The Japanese are doing it, and your currency weakens. So that becomes problematic in its own right. It's doable for periods of time. They did it in the 1940s and 50s for a significant period of time. And the Japanese have done it without massive negative consequences. Yes, their currency is weaker, but that means they can export more. If they don't do that and you keep increasing these interest payments and you keep increasing that, then you've got a real problem on your hands. Then that's the worst of all worlds. But I look at it and think, okay, GDP growth is what covers the debt payments. We've got the government in debt over 120% of GDP, and the private sector in debt over 100% of GDP as well. So somebody needs to pay for that, and that's economic activity that does it. And if GDP growth is driven by three factors, one is population growth, one is productivity growth, and the other is debt growth. So how do you make the economy more productive so you can grow GDP again to pay these debts? Now, that's what happened in the 1940s and 50s. There was, they rebuilt America then, right? That was the great part of America, with everybody getting a fridge and a car and a television and all of that. But this time around, the most likely outcome, that productivity comes from technology. So we've seen the rise of AI, we'll see the rise of robotics, genetic sciences, cryptocurrencies, big data. There's so many areas that we can see massive growth. So productivity has a potential to increase dramatically, but not yet. It takes time for this. We're just starting to use AI. We don't know what it's going to do. We know it's massive. But the other part of the equation is energy. So productivity is really driven by how much output you get from a unit of energy. So if you look what the Western world is doing, in fact, most of the world is doing, is they're trying to find new energy sources by putting massive stimulus in to incentivize people to cheapen the cost of electricity. Will it be green? Will it be a whole mix of stuff? Yes, and we're seeing all of these come lower in cost. So let's say we do have a larger energy breakthrough over the next 10 years. And energy goes from, if I look at the inflation-adjusted price of oil over the last 60 years, it's been about $40. Now, if we get that down to $10 and productivity goes up 2x, you've got this massive multiplier, and that can change the game for everybody. So my actual view is we'll be saved by growth, by human ability to drive forwards humanity, society, and the economy.